In this video, we'll explore how the year 1948, a single year in the 20th century, became the foundation for two dramatically different national stories. For Israelis, 1948 marks the birth of their modern state, a long-awaited return to a homeland and a symbol of survival after centuries of exile and persecution. For Palestinians, the same year is remembered as the Nakba, or the catastrophe, a time of mass displacement, destroyed villages, and lost homes. These two narratives aren't just historical footnotes. They shape how generations of young people learn about who they are, where they come from, and how they see the other side. Through textbooks, ceremonies, family memories, and national holidays, both stories are passed down, often with little room for the other. But how can one year mean both triumph and tragedy? To understand that, we need to look at what happened, and then at how it's remembered. But before we start, I'm on a road to get 1,000 subs as a small channel. If you want to help me, then subscribe, and enjoy watching this video. Thank you. Before 1948, the land between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea was known as Palestine. It was home primarily to an Arab population, both Muslim and Christian, and a growing number of Jewish immigrants. Many of those immigrants were fleeing oppression in Eastern Europe, or the aftermath of the Holocaust in Nazi Germany and its occupied territories. The idea of creating a Jewish homeland in this region wasn't new. Since the late 1800s, a political movement known as Zionism had been gaining ground, arguing that Jewish people needed their own safe state, especially after generations of discrimination and violence. After World War I, Britain took control of the region from the Ottoman Empire. The British government made conflicting promises, supporting a Jewish homeland through the Balfour Declaration of 1917, while also committing to protect the rights of the local Arab population. Tensions escalated throughout the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, often turning violent. Then, in 1947, the United Nations proposed a partition plan. The land would be divided into two states, one Jewish and one Arab, with Jerusalem placed under international control. Jewish leaders accepted the plan. Arab leaders rejected it, arguing it was unfair to the majority Arab population and disregarded their right to self-determination. When the British mandate officially ended in May 1948, Jewish leaders declared the establishment of the State of Israel. Almost immediately, neighboring Arab countries launched military action in support of the Palestinians. A war broke out. By the time the fighting ended, Israel controlled more territory than originally allocated by the UN plan. Over 700,000 Palestinians had either fled or were expelled from their homes. More than 400 Palestinian villages were destroyed or depopulated. The war created a lasting refugee crisis that continues today. In Israeli schools, 1948 is taught as the War of Independence, a defining moment in Jewish history. Students learn that after centuries of exile, discrimination, and most recently genocide during the Holocaust, the Jewish people finally secured a homeland. This narrative emphasizes survival, resilience, and national rebirth. Classrooms highlight how Jewish communities with limited resources defended themselves against multiple Arab armies. The story focuses on courage, how Jewish fighters protected convoys, built towns, and established democratic institutions almost overnight. Israel's annual Independence Day, or Yom HaAtzmaut, is a national celebration. It includes fireworks, family gatherings, parades, and school events. Students perform plays, sing patriotic songs, and watch documentaries that trace the journey from European ghettos and concentration camps to the creation of a sovereign state. Institutions like Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem, are often part of school field trips. The connection between the Holocaust and the creation of Israel is deeply embedded in the national story, not just as background, but as justification for the urgency of having a Jewish homeland. In Israeli textbooks, the War of 1948 is presented as just, necessary, and heroic. While some mention the departure of Arab residents during the war, many frame it as a result of Arab leaders urging Palestinians to flee or as a natural consequence of war. Rarely is there in-depth discussion about forced expulsions or destroyed villages. The emphasis remains on building a country against all odds. As a result, young Israelis often grow up with a sense of pride and national belonging. They learn to see Israel not just as a country, but as the culmination of a centuries-long journey for safety, dignity, and self-determination. For Palestinians, 1948 marks the Nakba, a word that means catastrophe in Arabic. In Palestinian schools, students learn that more than 700,000 people were displaced, hundreds of villages were wiped off the map, and families were scattered across refugee camps in neighboring countries. Nakba Day is observed each year on May 15th, the day after Israel's Independence Day. It's a day of mourning and remembrance. In schools, students write essays, recite poetry, and listen to personal stories from older generations. Grandparents and great-grandparents who still carry house keys or land deeds from homes they were forced to leave. Textbooks in Palestinian territories focus heavily on the loss of land and the sense of injustice that followed. They describe the Nakba as an ongoing tragedy, not something that ended in 1948. Israeli military occupation, the expansion of settlements, and restrictions on movement are taught as a continuation of that original loss. Maps in Palestinian textbooks sometimes omit the State of Israel entirely, labeling the whole area as occupied Palestine. While controversial, this reflects the deep-seated refusal to accept what many see as an unjust division and violent displacement. Cultural memory plays a big role, too. Songs, stories, art, and even graffiti keep the memory of the Nakba alive. The idea of return, of one day going back to lost homes and lands, is central to Palestinian identity. Refugee camps in Lebanon, Jordan, and the West Bank are filled with people who still identify strongly with villages that no longer exist. Just like in the Israeli narrative, the suffering of the other side, in this case the Holocaust or Jewish fears of persecution, is rarely included. The focus is on victimhood, resistance, and the long road toward justice. What's striking is how these stories not only diverge, they rarely meet at all. In Israeli classrooms, the Nakba is often reduced to a footnote or left out entirely. In Palestinian schools, the founding of Israel is seen only through the lens of occupation and displacement. This has a profound effect on how young people in each community see the world. Israeli students might grow up seeing Palestinians primarily as threats or obstacles. Palestinian students might see Israelis as colonizers or occupiers. These opposing views of 1948 aren't just disagreements about history. They're deeply personal, emotional worldviews. They shape how people vote, how they protest, and how they relate to others. They influence peace talks, policy decisions, and international diplomacy. Even outside the classroom, these stories are reinforced in homes, in media, and in public spaces. National holidays, museums, music, and monuments all contribute to keeping each version of 1948 alive and central to identity. There have been efforts to bridge the gap. A few schools and peace organizations have created programs where Israeli and Palestinian students learn each other's histories. Some textbooks and documentaries now include both narratives side by side. But these projects are rare and often face strong opposition from both communities. Critics argue that telling the other side's story could undermine national unity or validate an unjust perspective. In highly polarized environments, empathy can be seen as betrayal. Yet many scholars and educators believe that any path toward peace must start with mutual understanding. If each side continues to teach only its own pain and ignore the others, then reconciliation becomes nearly impossible. History isn't just a record of what happened, it's a story we tell ourselves about who we are. And in the case of Israel and Palestine, that story remains divided. More than 75 years later, the events of 1948 still shape daily life. Borders, laws, refugee status, and national identity all trace back to that pivotal year. For Israelis, 1948 is about survival, resilience, and building something from nothing. For Palestinians, it's about injustice, loss, and a promise still unfulfilled. Both sides teach their children that their version of the story is the truth. But perhaps truth, in this case, is not singular. Perhaps it's two truths held in tension, both real, both painful, both essential to understanding what has happened and what needs to happen next. Thanks for watching. If you found this video informative, please like and subscribe for more history told from multiple perspectives. And if you believe in the power of understanding both sides of a story, consider sharing this video with someone new.